Hi, this is my third devlog, and the first that will actually be a log of what I did since the last video. I spent half of May getting transistors and logic gates working in analog circuits. That's it. If you're disappointed, imagine how I feel. I had the same problem with the first 2 months, which is why those videos were about a whole year's worth of work. I spent those months making the circuit sim slightly less broken. I also took some time off from that to fix the analog number editor. And this is the problem with game development. I showed this off last video where it seemed to work, then spent 3 days fixing it so it always works exactly the way you would expect it to. I spent a day building this Python MIDI generator in Blender, for some reason. And this generator is not smart. It's basically asking a 10-year-old to play the piano with no guidance. They're smart enough not to just bash keys, but if it plays something good, it's purely by accident, and accidents do happen. So to start this, I downloaded this MIDI writing library, which is one file, wrote this script to drop notes with some sort of logic, placing notes by picking volume, hold time, and pitch offset from the last note from these arrays, and repeating that a random number of times. Then it picks another bass note so it doesn't just trail off. It then does the same thing at a lower and higher pitch so the piano can have up to 3 different melodies playing at once. It's trying. I then pick out the bits that actually sound decent so I can use them later. The nice thing about creating melodies like this is that it lets me write melodies that aren't in my style. It's not a very efficient way to write music, and I probably won't use it very much, but it only took a day to write and another to get this many melodies out of it, so it was interesting at least. I updated Visual Studio to 2019, which has background compiling, so that's nice. I spent another week planning out the combat system, for which I have nothing to show but pages of notes. I'm really trying to make it unique and avoid the use weapon deal damage based system Dark Souls 3 and Doom 2 already pretty much perfected, so next video I guess. And finally, I'm currently rewriting the player moving with ground script. The combat system involves walking on moving enemies, so this is pretty important. My current method was just parenting the player to the ground, which had its problems and was likely going to have more once I started loading and unloading game elements, which could involve deleting objects the player could possibly be standing on, and therefore parented too. It also didn't impart velocity to the player, so the moment you walked off an object, you just lost all momentum. I tried building this a few months ago, and a few months before that. Unity's physics engine does not like you manually updating positions. The best I could do before yesterday looked like this. In the end, the code that moves and rotates the character to stay with the platform is basically just these 8-ish lines, but it took at least 100 permutations and a few different theories of how to do this to arrive at the code that actually worked in every situation. I don't understand quaternions very well, so that definitely did not help. I also set up split screen so I could test multiple permutations of the script at once to make it easier to see what changes did what. I really need to use this trick more often. So I have that working, and I'm now trying to apply it to the player, and sadly it's not as easy as copying the code onto a script on the player object, and as I just found out while editing this video, I need to update the script execution order, so whatever the player is standing on always moves before I update the player position based on that object's movement. And as it turns out, that was pretty much the last error, and now it works. Luckily for me, and likely unlucky for every other possible situation, the physics engine does not update your velocity when you move something via transform.position or rigidbody.movePosition. So, my existing player movement script doesn't even see that the player is moving when you stand on a moving object. I thought I was going to have to work around my velocity updating to get velocity relative to the ground, but Unity's engine is inconsistent in just the right way to save me some complexity. So that's nice. And that's pretty much it for last month. Things should pick up once I finish the analog circuit system, which is just implementing capacitors, inductors, and NPN transistors at this point. There's a lot of components I don't have implemented, but once I have those 3, everything else should go quickly. When I built the logic gates, 90% of my time was getting the first one working. After I knew how to make a gate, the rest went very quickly. I'd like to say combat system next video, but the combat system relies on the circuit system. Everything relies on the circuit system, so we'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching.